What's going on, everybody? It is currently 8:19 a.m. I am in Wichita, Kansas. I am stuck at the airport. I've been out on a wind farm all week shooting a video for a company called Lock and Key. They hired me to come out there to shoot an update video for a renewable energy company called NG. So I've actually been out on site filming the process of building wind turbines. The guy I was out here with, Devin, he actually had to catch a flight early this morning, so I've been stuck at the airport since about 5 a.m. So I decided I'll shoot a little YouTube video. So to kind of tie everything together, I took a lot of photos this week, so since I have some time to kill, I thought I would make a video on how I edit my photos in Lightroom. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so once you have Lightroom open, the first thing that you want to do is you want to hit add photos up here, and if you don't see that, you can just press this and this tab will open up. So hit add photos, and I have already picked out the photos I'm going to edit, and there's these right here. So I'm going to select all of them and hit review for import, and then I'm just going to hit add 5 photos. So to actually start editing and manipulating your photo, you just press these little dials over here and it brings up all these controls. So the first thing I mess with is the exposure. This photo is actually exposed pretty well, so I'm not going to mess with it very much. But what the exposure does is it just makes the photo brighter or darker. Next, I mess with the contrast. What the contrast does is it brings the depth of the photo up and down. I like to add more depth, so I bring the contrast up. That looks good. The next thing we do is play with the highlights. What the highlights do is it takes the brighter part of the picture and makes it either brighter or darker. I like to bring the highlights down in this case, just to make that blue sky pop better. And that looks good. And then the next is shadows. Shadows takes the darker parts of the picture and makes them brighter or darker. I like to raise the shadows up a little bit, make him a little bit brighter. Next is whites. This makes the whites brighter or darker. I'm going to make them a little bit darker. Now blacks, and that just makes your black point either darker or brighter. So I like to bring my blacks a little bit down to give it a little more contrast. Okay, so that looks good. One thing that I want to say is that all these settings is your preference. So you have to play with them and figure out what you like. There's no right or wrong way to edit a picture, but just be careful because you can overdo it and underdo it. So just play with it and kind of use your eye to see what you like best and create the photo that you want to see. Okay, so now we're going to jump down here to this color tab. If you don't see it, just press this arrow and it'll open up. For white balance, I like to press this little dropper and then find the whitest thing in the picture. His hard hat's pretty white, so I'll click that. And then sometimes I play with the temperature, but not really. In this case, I can make it a little bit more on the blue side because that blue sky. And then sometimes I bring out the purples a little more. And then we have saturation and vibrance. Saturation and vibrance are going to mess with the colors. Vibrance is going to be a little more subtle, and saturation is going to be a little more harsh. So don't mess with the saturation too much because that's where you can really overdo it and underdo it. So I like to bump it up a little, and then I bring the vibrance up a little too. I'll actually probably, that looks good, I'll keep it there. And then I jump down here to the effects tab, and in this case I like to bring the texture up because I like to see everything that's going on. And then I jump down here to clarity, and I bump clarity up, and this just kind of makes everything a little bit more sharp in the picture, and it just makes everything stand out a little more and makes everything a little more crisp. And then same thing with dehaze, it kind of just takes away the fogginess in the picture. And then there's vignette, and what vignette does is it brightens and it darkens the corners. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally like it, so I like to bring it down, and it kind of just brings the focus in more on the center of the photo for me, and that's why I like it. But yeah, again, everything is your preference, and you're supposed to edit the photo to how you like. There's no right or wrong way. It's all about what you like to do. You, the photographer who took the photo, it's all about your edit, what you want your photo to look like. So again, there's no right or wrong way, so keep that in mind. This is just how I edit my photos. So let's jump into the next photo. We're going to kind of go through this one a little bit quicker and just skim through it. And then I'm going to show you a little trick at the end. So right here, I'm going to bring the exposure down because it's a little too bright. I'm going to bump the contrast up because I like the depth of field. And then I'm going to bring the highlights down so those blues stick out a little more. And then I'm going to bring the shadows up so you can see that windmill a little better. And bring the whites down so the clouds aren't as harsh. Blacks down so those plants stick out a little more. Keep the white balance as it is because it looks pretty good. But I'm going to bring the temperature down so that blue sky looks really blue. And I'm going to bring the tint maybe slightly green actually. And I like that because it gives that green look to the plants. And then I'm going to slightly bring up the vibrance to about 10 to make those colors stick out a little more. Bring it up a little more. And then the saturation as well, I'm going to bring that up to about 4. And yeah, that's looking good. Now I'm going to jump down here and I'm going to bump the texture up to make everything stick out a little more, as well as the clarity and the dehaze to get that fog out of the way. And then I'm going to bring my vignette down to bring the attention on the center of that photo. And yeah, that looks good. I really like that. If you ever want to compare what your original photo looked like to your edited photo, you just press this little button down here and boom, there's your original photo. Press it again, there's your edited photo. So yeah, I love that. You can see the difference. And then I want to show you a little trick that I use. In this case, I have two photos that are the exact same. One's just portrait and one's landscape. So I can create a user preset and just drop that on the other photo so I don't have to edit it the exact same way. And this can make editing a lot quicker, especially if you have a lot of photos that are very similar and have the same subject and the same exposure and are lit at least kind of the same. So I'm going to make sure I have the edited photo selected, and I'm going to come up here to my presets, and as you can see, if you press it, it's just going to open up this tab, and there's going to be these 3 dots up here, and you're just going to press these 3 dots and then hit create preset. I'm going to title my preset wind turbine and then hit save, and then it pops down here. As you can see, I've created a lot of presets. I like to make a bunch when I'm just editing on the fly, and then occasionally I'll just go through and delete them all and then make new ones. But in this case, I just labeled it wind turbine, so I come over here to this photo that is unedited and I can just press wind turbine and boom, it looks great. And again, there's the unedited photo and there's it edited. You can even go in here to a photo that's similar and drop it on there, and bam, it even looks pretty good on there. I would still go in here and tweak it a little bit, but that's a pretty good little base edit and you can definitely work with that. So my flight just got here, so I'm actually going to show you how to export these real quick. So the first thing you want to do is get all your photos selected. So to do that, I select my first photo, then I go to my last photo, and I hold shift and click my last photo, and that selects all of them. And then I go up here to file, down to export, and then that they all look good, so I just come up here to export. I find where I want to export them to, so I just want to put them in a new folder on my desktop called exports, and that looks good. And then I export it. So then they export to your desktop, and that's it. You have some edited photos. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you had any value in it or had any questions, please drop a comment. I love talking to you all. But yeah, I gotta go catch my flight, so have a great day.